I think the first thing I would like to know is, from the standpoint of the cabin and the interiors, is there a fundamental difference between the electric and the ICE?
Fundamentally, no, except on one front. So just to round this off, we've spoken about the Curvv.EV already. So this is effectively the same car with a few subtle differences. And in the cabin, like you said, it's the same experience in terms of the design, the equipment. You'll find that it has a few extras compared to the Nexon. And we'll explain why we're comparing it to the Nexon as well.
Sure.
But compared to the Curvv.EV, the real difference is in the backseat, where we said in the EV there was really no practicality. Here there is a usable backseat.
Okay.
Because the floor is lower by about 30 millimeters. It is, and trust me, I'm not tall, I'm 5'6", and for me, the Curvv.EV was unusable because the floor was just like this. So there's no way I was going to sit there, and it just makes the knee room feel less. It makes everything feel inadequate. And now with the floor being lower, I could sit there comfortably, reasonably comfortably. So it's become a backseat that's not a problem anymore.
Okay. But the Nexon, from what I infer from that, is remains the better backseat.
Somehow it still feels like the Nexon was more spacious, and that may be down to the headroom, because now with this still having that flowing roof and all of that, the headroom, even for me, and we'll put up the pictures here, in the back seat, if here compared to the Nexon, you can recline, adjust the seat. So if you're taller, you can have it slightly more upright, at which point you have a bit more headroom. I mean, I had a bit of headroom to spare, but if you recline it, and that means you're closer to the lower part of the roof, it's close.
Got it.
So here as well, for 6-footers, this back seat is not going to be good.
Okay.
It's not going to be something that you will not pick this car for the sake of the practicality as a family car or for the backseat experience.
Got it. It's a front seat driver's car, as it were. And just to contrast this, we also drove the Citroen Basalt, which has a similar fastback kind of roof. There, the headroom wasn't so much of an issue. Whereas on the Curvv in the EV, he very, very clearly said between the taller floor, which is because of the battery pack, and the curved roof, it was going to be a bit of a sticky wicket. Now he's saying it's a little bit better. If you want to know the full details about this car, I suggest some parts of this are in the Curvv.EV MotorInc first. We will not be able to go into that level of detail again for this episode.
Correct.
We're going to do a lot more of contrasting between what happened on the EV and the ICE. And because the Nexon shares sort of the same platform, is at similar price points in some cases, there's going to be a lot of referencing between the Nexon as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, so in terms of the cabin, this is going to feel very similar to the EV, and also very similar to the Nexon.
Okay.
Compared to the Nexon, the real differences will be in terms of some of the finishes. On the dashboard, you'll see that there's that metallic kind of finish, which looks good. It's got richer colors for the leather upholstery, and it's got more equipment, of course. It's got a power driver's seat. It's got a 12-inch infotainment system. It gets ADAS. It has a panoramic sunroof. We'll put the list up here for whatever the extra features are.
Right.
Which ones do I remember? Nothing really, because those are the powered seat. Sure, it's good. But you had ventilated seats any which way.
Correct.
In the Nexon, you get them here as well. You had a great sound system in the Nexon. You get another one here, which is maybe slightly better. It's a larger screen, sure. The thing about this car is, okay, I'm going to go wide view now, since we're into this conversation. It's said to be built on a new architecture, which is called Atlas. This car is a new nameplate. It's a new body style. It has a new engine in terms of the turbo petrol. There's a new transmission with the diesel. So there's a lot of newness in this.
Okay.
But the key thing that you should remember about this car is that it doesn't feel new. Okay. More importantly, it doesn't feel like a new generation experience. It feels like a very familiar car to drive, and that's the Nexon.
Evolved or not even evolved?
I can't even say that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right?
All right.
So there will be certain facets which you look at and say that, yeah, this is better. But it's not that in its entirety. Like if you were to take one aspect and say that this is now a new gen experience, or this is significantly better than something that the Nexon did earlier, I can't say that.
So it improves on certain of the older experiences, but doesn't fully say Tata to the old experience at all. Okay, got it.
So this is the key theme for this car. As much as it is exciting, and this is how I would break it up. If you were looking at getting a Curvv, you would do it for the lifestyle aspect of it.
Sure.
Which is that it looks different, which means you are cash rich, you're not worried about the practicality aspect of this car. You're buying it as a pure indulgence.
Right.
If you were thinking utility, this definitely will not work, because while this has been lengthened to fit into the 4.3 meter segment, which is to become a Creta rival, and in terms of the boot space, it's better than anything else in that space, right? Except the Basalt, maybe. It's better than everything else. But the actual experience in the backseat, that added length that the car has, is not functionally experienced inside the cabin.
Understood.
It's just the size of the car and the boot. That's about it. So buying this car just comes down to getting either the coolness of that shape, or to get a new nameplate, because you've seen too many Nexons around, and so therefore the Curvv is the same thing in a different look.
Yeah, and I was also thinking that you shouldn't buy two of these. Yeah, because if somebody, you have two of these Curvvs in your garage and somebody comes and says, nice Curvvs, it can be misinterpreted. You know, it's 2024 and we have to be super cautious about the things we say. So
it's a very familiar experience, and to me, now that I think about it, I think about the EV as the better option if I had to get the Curvv, because the experience is the more modern experience over there.
And you said that the range increment had also changed how useful that car feels in terms of being, I think you said it would almost be ready to be your primary car,
Correct.
especially if you were primarily going around the city with it.
Yeah.
And now you're saying that it adds up to a better car than the ICE. Okay.
Because this is from the standpoint of, okay, because we are saying right now this is a lifestyle choice, which means you're not bothered about the backseat. So you can discount that at the EV as well.
Right.
But the EV has the advantage of having a quieter cabin, and having better performance. So it just feels richer on those fronts.
If you really enjoyed this clip, there's not much that you can do because it's over, but this clip is from a much longer video which plays on our main channel, which is called MotorInc. I invite you now to visit there and explore this idea in more detail, and there you'll meet another amazing motoring personality, my great friend Kartikeya, the one and only.